Hello friends, welcome to my class today. Today we'll be dealing a most important topic, that is pulmonary tuberculosis. So tuberculosis is a leading infectious cause of morbidity and mortality. Morbidity is pertaining to disease and mortality is pertaining to the deaths. So this is most leading infectious disease in adults worldwide, killing about 1.7 million people, most of them in low and middle income countries. So low and middle income countries, because in these areas the socio-economic status of the people are low and there is overpopulation, overcrowding, in which the TB organism can easily be contagious. That means they can be transmitted from one person to another. And moreover, if a person is having HIV/AIDS, their immune system will be suppressed, so they are more prone for getting TB infection, as the body immune system cannot fight against the TB bacteria. So for these patients with predisposing HIV disease, the mortality means the death rate is high. And coming to definition, TB is an infectious disease usually caused by a bacteria called as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So this bacteria generally affects the lungs. So when it is affects the lung, we call it as pulmonary tuberculosis. And the microorganisms can also gain access to the blood and spread to other parts of the body like pleura, spine, kidney, brain, bones and joints. And when it is disseminated to these areas, it is called as disseminated TB or miliary TB. Next, coming to the agent that is causing TB. So Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the bacteria that causes TB. It is a small, slow-growing aerobic bacilli. Aerobic means that lives in oxygen. Because lung is filled with oxygen, they form a good medium for growth of this bacteria. And the main characteristics of this TB bacilli is it is distinguished by a complex lipid-rich cell envelope that is responsible for the characterization as acid-fast. So acid-fast, it is an acid-fast bacilli. They resist decolorization while staining with carbonyl fusion. Okay, so because it is an acid, they are acid fast bacilli and they resist the decolorization, so they are relative resistant to gram stain. So this is how they find the tuberculosis organism in the sputum. Mode of transmission, mainly it is an airborne infection and it can be transmitted through droplet nuclei. So whenever a person is singing or doing some respiratory maneuvers in which the person who is having active tuberculosis, his droplet is spreading to other person, then it can transmit the infection. So even a droplet which is less than 5 microns in diameter, they can remain in the air suspended for many hours, and this can spread the infection. So this is mode of transmission. Next, coming to the environmental factors. So mainly in overcrowded areas, the transmission is very high, because when an untreated patient is there, he can disperse the infection to large number of people. And poorly ventilated spaces. So in case when the ventilation is not there and it is in a closed room, when so many persons are inside a closed room and one person is suffering with TB, then he can spread the infection to others. And people living in poverty or in institutions are at particular risk. Okay, so in poverty, like when person is living in a slum or institution like some charitable homes or some nursing homes, these areas they are very risk because of the poor socio-economic status, and they live in a crowded way. And then healthcare practitioners who are in close contact with the active cases have increased risk. So any healthcare persons who is giving care to this TB person, he is also at risk. Next, coming to the host factors responsible for causing TB is mainly immunosuppressive persons. So those persons with having a HIV infection, because their immune system is suppressed, and substance abuse. So because of substance abuse, against these chemicals can suppress the immune system. And silicosis is an occupational disorder where person is chronically exposed to the dust silica, which can cause changes in the respiratory ciliary membranes. This because of that microorganisms can easily enter. And diabetes mellitus, so again here there is so much glucose which will enhance, or which is a good medium for growth of bacteria. And in severe kidney disease, again these chemicals they suppress the immune system, because kidney is not able to purify the blood and they can go for infection. And low body weight, this is because of malnutrition. So protein is responsible for antibody production and fighting against the infection. So when there is low body weight and lack of protein and nutrition in the body, then person is more prone to get the disease. An organ transplant, so mainly organ transplant patient, they will be on some corticosteroids or immunosuppressive drugs. So in these conditions, they will be having suppressed immune system. And head and neck cancer patients, because of chemotherapy and again immunosuppressive drugs, they will be getting this disease. And again, person who is on corticosteroids and organ transplant, their immune system will get suppressed, so patient will have this disease. And again, autoimmune disorders like Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, so these all can suppress our immune system. And any conditions where person's immune system is suppressed, they can be more prone for getting TB infection, because our immune system is not able to identify the foreign body and fight against the infection. The risk factors of TB are any person who is having close contact with the infected person, and any person who is migrated from areas where there is high rates of TB, and children less than 5 years of age who have a positive TB test, because they have less immune response and their immune system is immature. And low socioeconomic status like homeless person, drug users, and person with HIV, again here their immune system is suppressed. And person who work or reside with people who are having high risk of TB in facilities or institutions such as hospital, homeless shelter, and nursing homes. Okay, so these areas, they are prone to contagious, or they prone to transmit the disease very easily. So these are the risk factors of TB. Next, coming to the stages of TB. So first is primary stage, that is primary infection. So this is where the TB primarily, or at first sight, it affects the lungs, and it can be investigated within 4 to 12 weeks after the person has inhaled the infected droplets. And there will be local tissue reaction in the lungs, and the lymphohematogenous spread can occur at this stage. With immune sensitization means if the person's immune system is suppressed, then the person can disseminate or transmit the infection to other parts of the body. The next stage is the latent infection, and it occurs after 3 weeks of primary infection. So where there is uninhibited growth of microorganism, and also our immune system suppresses the bacteria replication. Okay, so it fights with the bacteria and it suppresses the replication of bacteria. And but they don't develop any signs and symptoms, but the bacteria will remain in a inactive state. Okay, this is because our immune system will surround the bacteria and form a granulomatous tissue, so that the bacteria cannot destroy the lungs. But this will be in a dormant stage. In future, during any immunosuppressive conditions or any environmental condition, in sometimes the person can show the infection, and it can change into a active TB. And this latent TB is not contagious, as the bacteria is in a dormant stage here, and also there is no signs and symptoms, but an estimated 2 billion people have this latent TB. The next stage is the active tuberculosis. So it occurs in the first few weeks after the infection with the bacteria. In this condition, the bacteria is active, and if our immune system fails to prevent the replication of bacteria, then the TB will become active and it will show signs and symptoms, and the person will become sick, and they have the disease and they can spread the bacteria. So it is contagious. In pathophysiology of TB, this Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacteria, they enter deep into the lungs through inhalation of a single droplet nucleus. Okay, so in a single droplet nucleus, it goes inside deep into the lungs, and they start the infection by killing the host macrophages. Okay, so host macrophages are defense mechanism of our body, so they kill these defense mechanisms. So when the defense system of our body is killed, the bacteria starts replicate, so that is nothing but it multiplies. So there are release of inflammatory mediators and phagocytosis by the host defense cells. Okay, our macrophages along with so many dendritic cells and other inflammatory mediator cells, they start producing phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is surrounding the bacteria, engulfing and killing the bacteria. Okay, so the thick waxy mycolic acid present in the bacteria prevents the phagocytosis. Okay, but the specialty of the TB bacteria is they have a thick mycolic acid which prevents this phagocytosis, and because of that the bacteria starts reproducing and killing the host immune cell. And this primary site of infection occurs in the Gons focus. Okay, so usually Gons focus means the foci or the focal area in the lungs which is causing the disease. Mostly it will be in the lower part of the upper lobe or upper part of the lower lobe. Okay, next the host defense cells like macrophages, lymphocytes, and dendritic cells, they surround the infected macrophages. Okay, so that means already the bacteria is killing our macrophages and they are infecting them. So more and more defense cells like macrophages, lymphatic cells, and dendritic cells, they will come into action in that area and they will surround our infected macrophage. So these macrophages attack the infected macrophage and produce active infection. Okay, so at this stage, if the macrophages are attacked and they are destroyed, then they produce active infection. And the other hand, they also fuse together and form giant multinucleated cells called as granuloma in the alveolar lumen. Okay, so inside the lung lumen, they will form like a granuloma cells. So these granulomas, they provide a conducive environment for cells to interact with the immune system. Okay, so these granuloma and our body immune cells, they interact with each other, and later this granuloma are also like our own macrophages, so our body will not identify it as a foreign body. So that is called immune system fails to recognize the granuloma as antigen. So there is suppression of the immune system because the macrophages are the infected macrophages are surrounded by our own host cell macrophages. Okay, so because of that, bacteria inside the granulomas remain dormant. Dormant means they are still present inside the granuloma, but they are not contagious because they are protected in the granuloma, so they cannot spread the disease, but they can produce a latent infection. That is called responsible for latent infection. That means if our body immune system is still weakened, or we have some disease condition is there, any disease attacks our body, then that time these infection can produce the signs. And some granulomas can develop and form abnormal cell death. Okay, abnormal cell death means they can go for necrosis. Necrosis is decay of the tissues. So bacteria can also gain entry into the bloodstream. So these decayed and cellular debris, that is the end product and waste product of the antigen antibody reaction, they can enter into the bloodstream and they can damage the tissue. So that is any area in the blood, if the bacteria or this granulomatous dead tissue is going, it can inoculate in another foci, means any other tissues in the body like bone, brain, or any spine, kidneys, etc., and they can form deposition of white tiny tubercles on the tissues. So in which area they are localizing or in foci point they are identifying, in that area they will develop like a abnormal tubercles, and these are called as disseminated tuberculosis. Coming to the signs and symptoms of tuberculosis, so first is weight loss. So weight loss is the person is losing weight, so it is a classical sign of TB. And next is chronic productive cough with frothy sputum, which will be for 3 weeks or longer. So when the person is having a continuous cough for more than 3 weeks or longer, then we say it is tuberculosis. And anorexia, which is lack of appetite, or the patient doesn't feel that he is hungry. And fatigue is tiredness. Malaise is also extreme tired. Low grade fever, this is low grade fever and night sweat. This is all whenever there is an infection, our body response is to put on the fever and make the body tired. And next is dyspnea, which means difficulty in breathing, and this because the microorganism is attacking the lungs and it is damaging the alveolar lumen, patient will feel the breathing difficulty. And next is hemoptysis, that is sputum in blood. So because of the antigen antibody reaction and there are formation of cellular debris, the cough will be produced with blood. And next is pleuritic chest pains. Whenever there is a problem in the lungs and the infection, it causes irritation and injury to the chest wall, which can result in pain. Next, coming to the diagnostic findings. So first test is tuberculin skin test. It is also called Mantoux test. So this is done by an intradermal injection of purified protein derivative. So 0.1 ml of this injection is injected in the forearm of a person intradermally, and they mark the area where the derivative is injected, and after 48 to 72 hours they will check that area. If there is any induration or any wheal and flare reactions like excoriation, swelling, redness, etc., then the person is positive for tuberculosis. And next they do a chest x-ray. In chest x-ray they see multinodular infiltrate above or behind the clavicle. So in these areas are where the infection can occur, or the focal area of the lung. So you can see these nodular infiltrates in this area. Next is sputum smear is done for acid fast bacilli. So here 3 consecutive samples are taken and they will identify Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So they use a stain called carbon fusion. So with that they will stain, and the bacteria has to be resistant for decolorization. So if it is there, then we say that patient is having tuberculosis, and he has to get 3 consecutive samples of positive results. They also do a nucleic acid amplification test and culture test. This is to identify the drug sensitivity, because certain drugs like we give for tuberculosis, the person may go for resistance, because for a long time he's taking the same drug, he can go for resistance. So in order to identify which drug is sensitive, we do this test. To the treatment of tuberculosis, so TB disease can be treated by several drugs, so which is given for about 6 to 9 months. So the first line of anti-TB drugs are isoniazid, rifampin, ethambutol, and pyrazinamide. The essence of TB treatment is DOT therapy. DOT is directly observed treatment. So in this, any healthcare professional or a designated individual, there should not be a family member, that provides TB prescribed drugs and watches the person's follows every dose. So that means, like, because TB drug we have to take it for a long duration, like 6 to 9 months. Sometimes patient may forget, or sometimes they don't take their drugs. So in such cases, this is more useful. That is, they have to, any health professional directly observe the person whether he is taking the drug or not. That is, in front of the healthcare professional, they have to take the drug. Okay, the main 5 elements of DOTS that is given by World Health Organization is first, political commitment with increased and sustained financing. So that means in every country the government agency should be responsible for making separate TB centers, and also they have to finance for the supplies, medications, etc. And also they have to have staff members who will look after or supervise these patients who are with TB, and they have to provide the DOTS drug. Okay, so this is the first element. And next is case detected through quality assured bacteriology. Okay, that means they have to have a quality related labs, so quality labs which can identify the number of cases, and they can also do a testing, and where the report will come very soon, so that they can start with the treatment, and also they can prevent the disease from spreading. Next is standardized treatment with supervision and patient support. So as I already said, that itself is, we have to supervise the patient and directly observe the patient and then give the medicine. So there should be a standard treatment, like how they will supervise the patient, how they identify the patient, and then like at what time they have to give the drug. So everything should be done in these centers. And then an effective drug supply and management system. So because DOTS therapy needed treatment for more than 6 to 9 months, they have to have effective drug supply. That means enough drug supply should be there, and they have to manage the drug production and also delivery, etc. And monitoring and evaluating system and impact measurement. So that means they have to have a good record system of keeping the number of TB cases, and how many cases have been identified, how many latent infection, what is the number of active infection. So all those numbers they have to have in a record, so that they can identify and treat the patient. So these are the elements of DOT. This is the DOT regimen. So that is what all the group of drug given and for what patient it is given. So in this there are categories, type of patient, regimen, duration, and testing at which month. So first category, the color of the box where the drug is stored is red, and the type of patient comes under first category is new sputum smear positive. So any patient who with the sputum smear positive, and even if any old patient had a TB but a new sputum smear is showing negative, or any new extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Okay, so any new extrapulmonary tuberculosis is other than pulmonary tuberculosis, if they have a TB spine, TB kidneys, TB bones, etc. So any other area if they have a tuberculosis. And new others means those person who are exposed with a TB infected person, and they are immunosuppressed, and they may they may have the risk of getting the disease. Okay, so for these patients the regimen is, they give first 2 month, H is isoniazid, R is rifampicin, Z is pyrazinamide and ethambutol, that is 3 times a week for the first 2 months, and for the next 4 months they give only isoniazid and rifampicin 3 times a week. So this total duration will be for 6 months, and they have to test at the second month. In category 2, the color of the box, that is the medicine which is kept, is blue. And in this category, there is sputum positive relapse. That means a person who is cured, where the physician is certifying a person as cured with TB, but again, when again he is coming to the hospital and checking the sputum and it is found positive. That is sputum positive relapse. And sputum positive failure. Failure is person like previously he had a TB, and also whenever he is checking the sputum, every time the result is showing positive. So even after all the treatment course, still the person is showing the positive results and sputum positive treatment. Okay, that means those persons who are in treatment with the sputum positive result. Okay, so these persons, the regimen is, we have to give the first 2 months isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol and streptomycin for 3 times a week. And the next month, that is third month, we will give isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide and ethambutol again 3 times a week. And for the next 5 months, only isoniazid, rifampicin and ethambutol 3 times a week. So this will be given, and the duration is for 8 months, and we have to test at third month. Next, the third category color of the box is green. So they are sputum negative and extrapulmonary, not seriously ill. Okay, their sputum is negative, so sometimes they may have a extrapulmonary TB but not seriously ill. Then we give 2 months of isoniazid, rifampicin and ethambutol 3 times a week, and next 4 months of isoniazid, rifampicin, ethambutol 3 times a week, and the duration will be 6 months, and there is no need to check because check the sputum results because they are already negative. In case of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, so this means when a patient is taking the previous drugs like isoniazid, pyrazinamide, ethambutol and rifampicin, these are the first line drugs. When the person is taking these drugs for a long time, the patient may go for resistant to these drugs. That means these drugs will not act on the patient's body, so they become resistant to first line of drugs. So we have to give the other potent drugs. So they are levofloxacin, motifloxacin, bedaquiline, linezolid, clofazimine, cycloserine, tersiddone, amikacin, streptomycin, delamanid, ethambutol, pyrazinamide, ethionamide, propionamide, imipenem, cilastatin, meropenem, clavinate, para-amino, salicylic acid and high dose of isoniazid. So these are the group of drugs given according to the patient sensitivity reports. I said in the sputum culture and NAAT, that is nucleic acid amplification test, they'll find the sensitivity. So according to the patient sensitivity, those group of drugs according to the TB centers guidelines and according to physician order will be given. So here the dose, route and what is for adult and children, and what is the dose in case of renal impairment is given. The gold standard rule in tuberculosis is prevention of TB. So this is done through firstly identifying the people with active TB and then curing them through provision of drug treatment. So with proper treatment, so first you have to do a survey and identify the sputum positive cases, and then we have to give proper TB treatment, that is dot therapy, and thereby the infection can be controlled. And next is use of mask, respirators will help in preventing the transmission of TB. So especially when patient has TB, we have to educate them to wear the mask and respirators whenever he is going outside or wherever he is there, he has to wear the mask. And cough etiquette, so that is whenever patient is coughing or sneezing or doing any respiratory maneuvers, he has to use a tissue. In case if he don't have a tissue, he has to cuff in the elbows or the sleeves. He should not cuff in the hand, because when he is cuffing in the hand and when accidentally he keeps the hand somewhere, he can transmit the infection. And next, wash hands frequently, and there is a vaccine called BCG, Basil Gamete Gyrin, will provide prevention for children. Yeah, and we have to educate the persons to take the drug properly, and also direct observation treatment has to be provided to complete the course of the drug regimen, and they must be careful that they do not pass the infection to other persons, and they have to follow respiratory hygiene. And education must also given to the public. They should prevent the social stigma. So many persons think that when they walk with TB persons or shake hands with TB persons, they may contract the disease, but TB can be only transmitted from droplet nuclei. So you have to educate the public to prevent the social stigma. And these TB patients at home also, they has to be kept in they have to sleep in a separate room. That room should be well ventilated, and you have to avoid them in closed doors. So mostly these persons also should avoid public transport or any large gatherings, because they can spread the infection. This is all about TB. I hope you understood. Thank you for listening.